You're listening to How to 20-something, the best podcast that helps both men and women navigate their 20s and learn how to adult across all aspects of their lives. We're going to focus on career, relationships, finances, fitness, nutrition, and all of the common challenges and obstacles a typical 20-something will face in this post-college life. I'm your host, Jess Diamond, and I am the CEO and founder of Jess Diamond Coaching, where I help young professionals get their shit together, gain their confidence, and own their life. No one prepares you for this adulting world, so allow me to help you feel like you are no longer a chicken running around with its head cut off, and that you actually know what the hell is going on and what your next step to take is. Welcome to How to 20-something. Welcome back to another episode of How to 20-something, where today I'm going to be talking to you about taking your selfishness too far. I talk a lot about how this is the decade to be selfish, where you're only responsible for yourself. You need to put yourself first. You don't have a family to be responsible for, possibly not even a significant other, so it really is just you. The other part of it is you don't want to be a people pleaser or get walked all over, so you're going to set boundaries and protect your peace. And don't get me wrong, these are good things. But what happens when you take it too far? I think most of us can admit we've used the phrase, "I'm protecting my peace," to justify something we didn't really want to do. Maybe you canceled plans. Maybe you ghosted a friend. Maybe you just didn't feel like showing up. And while sometimes that's valid, sometimes it's not. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. This is definitely a trending topic right now. And like all things in life, too much of anything is never a good thing. So yes, be selfish. It's okay to put yourself first. But there is a line, and if you cross the line of selfishness, then you start to lose other people too. And you'll become very, very lonely because you stop prioritizing other people in your life. Which is why this episode is to help you know where and when it's okay to be selfish and how to make sure you're not diving too far off that deep end. Our generation, or older Gen Z, younger millennial, and if you're me, the in-betweeners, has done a really good job at bringing this healthy sense of selfishness into the picture. You see it across social media. It's words you use too, maybe without you realizing what you're saying, like main character energy, self-care moments, focusing on me, putting me first. So I want to be clear when I say this. There is nothing wrong with focusing on yourself, showing up for yourself, or practicing self-care. What I do want to emphasize throughout this episode is that we've taken things to the extreme, where now you're canceling last minute to protect your peace or energy and essentially dropping the ball on your commitments, which is pretty shitty behavior. So let me be very clear when I say this. That's not self-care, that's being inconsiderate, where protecting your peace becomes bailing on people, and setting boundaries becomes dodging accountability. It's not saying you need to drop everything and show up for your friends, but it is saying that if you've made plans with someone and the moment comes where you don't want to go, or maybe something more fun came up for you instead, then you need to still suck it up and go. Commit to your yes. I had a friend with shiny object syndrome where he was always after the bigger, better offer. The more fun thing over the same morally correct thing, even if it meant letting people down. And it's actually what started the demise of our friendship. Because a few years ago, we both, along with 4 other people, had 2 big events on the same night and at roughly the same time. We had a friend's going away party who was moving back to Wisconsin, and we had a joint friend's 30th birthday party where they rented out a bar and were throwing this massive bash. The 30th birthday party was definitely going to be more fun than the going away party. But a going away party is far more important than a 30th birthday. So the plan was to go to the going away party first, and then the 30th birthday party second. All of us were on board for this plan of being able to show up to both events, until the day of, when my friend went silent. And then said he wasn't going to make the going away party. Knowing this friend goes after the better options, but also prioritizes community and relationships, I called him out on his BS, on his selfish decision. And he got upset with me because I saw through him and the choices he was making. He actually got defensive and told me, "You're always talking about how it's okay to be selfish, but when I finally put myself first, suddenly it's no longer okay. And I told him, no, I'm not asking you to sacrifice your health or skip dinner or skip the gym. It's organizing your night so you do show up for someone you care about before you go have fun. It's that you can do both, and you're choosing not to. It was that I knew he had the time to do the health stuff and say goodbye to our friend who is moving away, and then go have fun at the birthday bash later. That he was picking the gone too far selfish option at the expense of friendships. I told him what my plan was, and he told me he doesn't care what I do and hung up the phone. All I wanted him to do was own up to the decision he was making, but he kept making excuses instead. He wasn't choosing himself to grow. He was choosing himself at the expense of others, and that's the difference. So let's run it back to how it would not be a gone too far selfish option. Because he tried to frame it in that way, but I knew his timing, his schedule, and his tendencies. So as a friend, I am going to be the one to call you out on what you're doing. Oh, I also want to say that the going away party was announced about 2 weeks before the birthday party, and he knew the guy moving away longer than these other guys. So let's say he didn't have a ton of time and could not make it all work. Choosing to go to the gym and make and eat dinner and then meet us wherever we're at in the night are the healthy, selfish options. It allows you to show up better for your friends, even if you're an hour late because you've prioritized your own health first. I would then say even showing up to the going away party first for 5 minutes, a quick hi and goodbye and good luck, as it was literally on the way to the birthday one, would have made this a selfless choice. It shows respect and effort. Healthy selfishness looks like saying, I need to take care of myself so I can show up better. Not, I'm going to take care of myself and forget everyone else. The rest of us all made it to both. Of course, everyone was completely blacked out by the time we got to the birthday party, but I went to bed that night happy that I got to say goodbye to my friend. In this instance, doing what's best for you, my friend, for example, is hurting other people. So it's considering how the impact of your decisions is going to affect your relationships, the people you care about in the name of independence or in the name of putting you first. It's putting you first, but at what cost? Because here's the message you're sending when you bail on plans or pick the more fun or even the more selfish option instead, like choosing to stay home. You're telling your friends that you do not prioritize them. Flat out, end of story. And I know what you're thinking. Oh, but Jess, I'm putting myself first and I can't be my best self if I don't do that. No, that's not fully how life works. If you have plans on the calendar and day of you don't want to go for whatever reason, outside of you being really sick, then you're being the wrong level of selfish and you're hurting your relationships as a result. I actually have a friend right now who keeps doing this. So I stopped initiating plans with her or even making any plans with her. She'll get invited to do something weeks in advance, and all of a sudden, day of or week of, she can't come anymore. And it's absolute bullshit when it's on the calendar so far in advance for you to write it down and say no to other things or mentally prepare yourself to go after a long day or a long week. You're not putting yourself first for the betterment of everyone in that instance. You're dropping the ball and ripping your relationships apart. And you know who it hurts? It hurts you by doing that. By isolating as your form of self-care, you're going to end up lonelier, not healthier, or not more free. There's something I tell my clients when we work on schedules and routines and fitting everything in, and it's that whatever you say no to, you are allowing yourself the chance to say yes to something else. And whatever you say yes to, you are then saying no to something else. There's a give and take with everything. But you have to decide what matters most to you in that moment and what your top priorities are. If friendships are a top priority, then you need to hold on to your yeses so you have space for them in your life. It's knowing when you're setting a boundary versus when you're closing yourself off from everyone else. Because too much alone time isn't good. And the less you prioritize your relationships, the more you're going to end up being alone. Where it gets messy is knowing your own limits and being able to communicate as such. I mentioned this with being a good friends episode, but if for whatever reason you really need to pull back on plans you made with someone, then it's on you to reschedule and to make an effort towards showing up for them when you will have the capacity to be social. So yes, protect your own peace, set your boundaries, and find something that will work for the both of you. You can love yourself and still care about how your actions affect the people you love. It's called emotional maturity. Being selfish versus selfless comes with a better understanding of your intentionalities. What I mean is that you're not saying yes to everything so you don't let anyone down. That's people-pleasing behavior, and we are done doing that in 2025. But rather, it's being intentional about when you do say yes. And then knowing, are you saying yes out of guilt of letting someone down, or saying yes as a way to enforce a connection? Because the first one is going to drain you, to which you should reevaluate your relationship with that person. And the second one is going to energize you. If it's coming from that place of guilt or draining you, then maybe this isn't a relationship for you to continue pursuing. Now, clearly, selfishness can come in different forms, and that can make for some gray areas when it comes to choosing yourself first. I find that there are 3 different variations. There's healthy selfishness, which is what I was just describing, where you put your needs first as a way to protect your energy or your values or to be able to show up better for other people. There's reactive selfishness, where you say no to people or things and isolate out of fear or stress or avoidance. And then there's unaware selfishness, which is when you're blind to how your actions impact others. In my opinion, reactive selfishness is the hidden one that can be easily disguised behind healthy selfishness, so you justify it's okay. But if you really want to know which form of selfishness you are embracing, then you can ask yourself, are the choices you're making that are seemingly selfish out of avoiding discomfort or to help you grow, to help you be better? Typically, if you're exhibiting unaware selfishness, then you aren't going to have the wherewithal to ask yourself how your actions are impacting other people. Luckily, there are signs to be able to tell if you've crossed the line from healthy to unhealthy selfishness. But it does take a higher level of self-awareness followed by action. Because remember, awareness without action means absolutely nothing. So, if you're listening to this episode, then that means you at least have the curiosity to determine if you are being too selfish. But here are your checkpoints. You stop considering how your decisions affect others. You cancel repeatedly without following up or rescheduling. You feel justified in never compromising. You label everyone who challenges you as toxic or a bad friend. And you feel disconnected, but tell yourself it's peace. It could be any one of these things. I can tell you for a fact that I know someone who used to be in my inner circle, but portrays all of these checkpoints right now and has thus moved to my outer circle. She's definitely someone who needs to listen to this episode because I'm tired of trying to save this friendship and compete with her selfishness. But if someone is deep in unaware selfishness, there's nothing you can really do on your end besides communicate how it's affecting you. If you're in that boat of, oh shit, I've done at least one of these things to someone in my life in a relatively recent time frame, then it's time to put on your big boy and big girl pants and own up to it. It is reversible for you to save relationships you were too selfish or too self-absorbed to realize you were hurting. Apologize for your actions and own up to them without making an excuse, and then really try to do better. If you're brave enough, ask this other person to politely call you out on when you're exhibiting signs of selfish behavior, because it is a learning experience for you to shake off the stories you've previously been telling yourself. Justifying that what you're doing is healthy selfishness when now you know that it isn't, or it wasn't. It's definitely confusing because our generation has done a really good job at putting ourselves first. But unfortunately for you, this isn't your world that we're all living in. We all are having our own experiences at the exact same time you are having yours. So yes, cut people some slack and do your part in not being selfish outside of setting appropriate boundaries. If you want to have good relationships in your life, then you need to get out of your selfish era and show up for people even if you don't want to when the time comes. That means going to your friend's birthday party even after a long, shitty workday because you already said yes, because their birthday comes around once a year, and because you can suck it up for an hour and leave early. I've done that. One of my dearest friends is still really close with my ex-best friend. So every year, I have to suck it up for one night and be in the same vicinity as him because I care about being there for her more than I care about how uncomfortable I am around him. I just tell her, I'll be there for an hour, I love you, but I will leave after that. There is a middle ground. Find it. Support your friends, connect with people, stop isolating as a justification for protecting your peace. And what I want to end this episode with is that it is okay to be selfish until it isn't. There will be moments where being selfish is absolutely the right thing to do. When your body's run down, when your mental health is shot, when your gut says something's off. But then you need to do your due diligence and find a day and time to reschedule. When you cancel too many times, people stop inviting you. Not out of spite, but out of self-protection. And that's how loneliness sneaks up on you. Not because you don't have people, but because you stop showing up for them. And that's when your selfishness comes to bite you in the butt, which hopefully by now you are all well aware of. And one by one, we'll turn this generation around from bailing on their plans to doing what's for the betterment of the relationship as a whole. So, if you liked what you heard, if you felt called out, if you have a selfish friend, if you know someone who complains of a selfish friend, then share this episode and you can post it to social media, tag me at coach.jessdiamond when you do. You can send it directly to someone and say you felt called out when in reality you want them to feel called out. Is your secret safe with me? But seriously, help me spread word of this podcast because it's pretty freaking good and more 20-somethings need to listen to it. And as always, I can't wait to be in your headphones again next week with another brand new episode.